All right, welcome to the Book Dormer. Glad you can make it. It's an absolutely lovely spring day. Probably one of the last days you can really wear a sweatshirt except after dark. Till the sun's going down, and here to talk about a book. So which one are we after today? Talking about Tainted Cup, or The Tainted Cup. Wow, beautiful edition. Very nice. From Robert Jackson Bennett. He's an author I actually have never read in print before. I've done his audiobooks and really, really liked the audiobook on City of Stairs. And when I read the synopsis on this, the pitch is Knives Out meets Attack on Titan. Now, let me tell you, Attack on Titan, that's going to work. Yeah, it's a crazy hair day. We'll get to deal with it. But today, it's a great book. Came out February 6, 2024. About 400 pages or 406 long. And it is a detective mystery style book set in a fantasy world, set in a world that is very, very similar to Attack on Titan. All right, so I want to start by talking about the world, and then we'll get into the plot and who the main characters are. So the main world character on here, or the world, I'm going to say the world might be one of the main characters. I don't think I misspoke on that one. You have an empire, very large empire, and it has walls, very similar to Attack on Titan. If you haven't seen that, there are different giant walls to keep out giant monsters. We'll talk about that. And these walls, the further out you are, the less rich you typically are. So if you want to be in the inner circle wall, that's where all the good things are. That's where the best food is, the best servants, the best everything. Past then we have 3 circles of walls, or 3 sets of walls. And then that final wall, there's a wall beyond it called the seawall. And the seawall is what keeps out the Titans / Leviathans. Both words are used in here. World has got some very interesting pieces. You have biopunk going on. So a biopunk is where they're using biology for extra capabilities. So for instance, you take a biology and you can have like a graft that could give you additional benefits. And then there's another version of it which is even more powerful, which is much more invasive. So like a graft can be temporary. Like, oh, I feel like getting stoned. You can have a graft to get stoned and get stoned out of your mind. And then you have the large mage grafts. Tech-wise, this is a sword style world. So you have swords, you have horses, but you do have bombards, which, if Civilization, the game's ever taught us anything, is an early version of a cannon, kind of a mix between a mortar and a cannon. And so they have those primarily to annoy and drive away the Titans or the Leviathans, whatever you want to call them, when they make a breach of the wall. So if they break through a wall, they'll destroy whole cities. They can crush everything in their sight. They're apparently absolutely monstrous, like become large mountains or large hills and mountain style when they're done. And then you have one other piece of this, which is a thing called doppelgrass. And that is a contagion. So the contagions come with the Titans and the Leviathan. So there's many more near the seawall. And the doppelgrass can bloom, and if you inhale it, you can get it. If it goes off and it was in your water, if it was in a cup. Yeah, I don't think that was a hard one to see. But if it was in your cup and you drink from it, maybe you could get the contagion with it. And the contagion's pretty powerful. All right, first off, before we get jamming, this is the standard edition book. I want to get to the map and show you a map of things. I know it's sideways, so you won't be able to read it, but look at the maps, and you can see the walls, and you have these inner and outer walls. So it really should be like that. And then also, very kindly gave us a list of the rankings. So as we have different characters at different levels, we can see their interactions between each other. There is a lot of discussion about who is allowed to make decisions. It's very much a gentrified type of society. And so in a gentrified society, you don't get to accuse certain people of things. Or if you do, you better be right. And even then, you still might lose because that person might be more important than the truth. All right, that takes us over towards the plot. So we kick it off with a body being found. So this is a murder mystery. To begin with, at least, it's a murder mystery that then grows into a larger conspiracy. You have a body. It is a commander, so a decent ranked person. And this commander has a tree that apparently has shot out of his chest and other parts and spread, like large enough that it permanently damaged the building it's in. So these things are very explosive when they happen. It's not just, oh, there's a tree sprouting slowly. This is splat, and body parts are in the tree type of thing. Apparently pretty horrific. And it happened to take place at one of the gentry's houses. So that's the Huzzah clan. And the Huzzah clan, who was not there during this, but their servants are there. Even the servants are still, let's just say, they think they're better because they're the servants of this group. Interesting if you can play it off. Before we get into the who's running it, we got to talk about sublimes. So there's 4 types of what they call sublimes. These are people who have been modified and have special abilities. But sometimes when you get an ability, you lose an ability. And that's going to come into play here. So you have the axioms. These are calculators, just like essentially human calculators. You throw the numbers out, no matter how big, how fast, they can multiply. You're talking about area of something, they've got it. And so they're like advisors for the gentry. You have the spatus, who are really good at looking at things and going, oh, how long that is or how far apart those things are. Kind of an interesting ability. You'd think in a world without GPS, yeah, that would actually be really nice. We don't have electronic measuring of any sort. You don't even have, really, boom, tape measures. So you could have them, and they'll just draw the maps, and the maps are going to be accurate, which of course matters, and anything else that they get employed for. Another one, there's a linguist. So they are obviously the linguists, and they're able to understand different languages, different read and writing. So they're also writers in the mix. And then the last one that we really meet is engravers. So an engraver is like a human memory device. So they could take, the one that we're going to meet, he takes a scent, sniff his scent. And once he's done that, it's locking in what he's going to see. And then he can recall it by sniffing that scent again. And it gives them like perfect recollection of what is happening. Obviously, there's going to be costs for having perfect memory. You can only have so much memories before things go bad in your life. But yeah, for now, young person. We have a young engraver. In fact, that's who we're going to start with. That is Cole. He is a signum, which means O2 if I'm calling that officer ranks. Second up, he is the assistant investigator for one of the judges in IDUX, or IUDUX, or IUDEX, or IDOX, IDOX. Sorry, I'm probably messing that one up, which is Latin word for judge. I'm not big into Latin, but hey, I do know what Google does. So Cole, he is an assistant, but he's not even officially allowed to be an assistant. So he is still working his way up, and you have to have sign off from the military or the military commanders in the area to get that promotion, even though they're in some sort of extra government style organization. But he doesn't have this. Yet he got assigned to an Uminus. It's a higher rank person who is very eccentric, not super well loved, and apparently he got assigned to her or got chosen by her for whatever reason. But his commander, his former military commander, knows you're horrible at tests. There's no way you scored this. But yet there he is scoring a really high test on the one test to get into that IDUX, or whatever they call it. Is a specialty term for their different political organizations. Anyways, so Cole, definitely hiding something. He's been accused of it. We know it's happening, and he didn't deny it so hard. Like, if somebody denies it, you go, all right, maybe that's not the case, but he didn't really deny that thing. So he's like, okay, let's see. Mixed in. So he goes on the investigation. He goes over, and everyone there is like, wouldn't this be easier if the investigator came? Like, this is a murder at a gentry house. Like, you just don't send anybody. But with the way this investigator works, he goes, does his little sniff job, records everything he can think of, asks the people all the questions, records it in perfect eidetic memory, and then he takes it back and he's going to give it to the investigator. And so his interactions with the investigator is absolutely fantastic. She is bonkers, eccentric to the T. Like, she wears blindfolds because she says depriving some senses makes others better. I think we've all heard that before when somebody loses their sight. It's an interesting technique to say, I'm going to put on a blindfold while I listen to you because that way I have no distractions. It is actually kind of interesting. I mean, I've closed my eyes and listened to audiobooks before, so it can work, I guess. I don't know if I ever solved any big murders there doing that. Anyway, so he's there. He's in Cole. He's there. He's investigating. Let's say the servants are a mixed bag. Some of them are saying, "Hey, this guy is a sleaze ball. The guy who died, he's a sleaze, and none of the ladies like to be around him." Meanwhile, there other people are essentially threatening Cole and saying, "Look, kid," and everyone calls him boy. That actually got that like is my least favorite part of this thing. Everyone calls him boy. I'm like, how old is he? I mean, he's old enough. He's got a sword, a wood one, because he's not allowed to have a real sword because he hasn't graduated yet. All right, it's not official, so he doesn't have the real weapon, but he's got his wood sword with him, and he's working his way up. But he's the eyes and ears of this investigator. And I love some of the lines. There's a line after he's done with the investigation, he's going back to report. And one of the soldiers who's there, the one who brought him in and officially started off the conversation, said, "Hey, you did really well there. Hey, wouldn't this have been easier if you had the investigator?" And he looks and goes, no, it wouldn't. I believe his quote was, "You have to trust me on this." And then that's how we meet Anna. Super eccentric. She is like, she'll have somebody show up to deliver her something, like, "Get me some maps," and bring them in, and then not let them leave for hours as she just quizzes them about everything she can possibly think of. And it's some goofy stuff that she thinks of. And so she's going at it. So Cole comes back. It's like, "Oh no, you've got another one kidnapped." Goes in, rescues the person, gets him away, reports back. And they're working around in the city for quite a while and managed to solve the murder. Yay! They figured out who would have had just cause, or who had cause, who was able to do it. They know who did this murder. They know who planted the doppelgas or grass. They know who planted that and how long ago, because they knew when it blossomed. And so they're able to solve all that. Yay, it's been solved. And then they get pulled into something bigger, because it turns out our murder mystery is not a murder mystery, it's a conspiracy with lots of murders, 10 dead engineers. Some of them, when they died, that went off and they created a hole in the seawall, because then they died and they're right there. The tree just kind of sprouts through the wall and pops the wall. And the Titans sensed this and one got through. So they had a big breach, and everyone was worried they're all going to die. Apparently when these come, like, it's pure on panic mode. Right? The rich get out of town. The poor try to get out of town. The military tries to rush towards it, and everybody gets called up. If you're in the military, hey, you might be charging a walking hill with a sword, maybe a walking mountain, with no real chance to live. But hey, good luck. As the book keeps going, it grows and grows. More characters, some very interesting characters. A lot of intrigue in this. A lot of red herrings when you look into it. And I love that, right? If you're going to have layers of conspiracy, if you're going to have these layers of conspiracy, you want some red herrings. You want things that are not necessarily just handing you the result. You want to have the look and say, "Oh, what's this? What could it be?" And I thought it did really well. A lot of intrigue, a lot of spoiled rich people. So you definitely have that as a theme. You definitely have a theme where the rich, there's two different layers of who can do what. And the rich can get away with things. So the rich are plotting, but are they plotting for themselves or for others? And that continues. We have a lot of deaths. We do have a couple Titans, although, we really don't experience them in like full on Attack on Titan, coming to your house, smashing walls type thing. Like, there's nobody with OMD gear going pew pew, grabbing hold of things and flying off to go cut down the Titans. Instead, you have actually a pretty grounded story. Like this, other than the Titans and the biopunk and the doppelgrass, this absolutely could be our world. And I think that's one of the fun parts of it, is that you can really imagine yourself in it. You can imagine yourself playing with the parts. Fantastic dialogue in the book. I thought the dialogue was quite sharp. Several really good endings on chapters, really good snappy ways to end it. Imaginative. There are a lot of elements layered in this, and I love a good layer. So in the end, I'm saying great book. Definitely a satisfying ending. I won't give anything away. This is we only go really halfway. We didn't even go halfway. We went to about that part, maybe a third of the way in. Just given in this little review, I think the book's worth the read. Definitely, definitely. It's my first 5-star of 2024. So book 12, maybe somewhere in that range. First 5-star of the year. Yeah, at least first written 5-star. I'm listening and working my way through the Malazan series on audio. So yeah, there's other 5-stars involved because I actually am really just loving the Malazan. But this is such a great change up, such a great different way of doing it. Loved it. I think you should check it out if you like mysteries, or if you like fantasies, or you just like good writing. Definitely take a peek at it. All right, I'll see you next time. Take care.